Okay, we have I think a 25-point agenda. We've had some scratches. On the agenda you're looking at, Clint, you can help me here. I think item 14 is scratched.
Mr. Chairman, item number 23 is off. This is Ben Southwick. Item number 23 is off.
Thank you, Ben. I think 23 and 24. Is that correct, Clint?
There was a resolution I prepared for number 24.
I don't have that resolution.
Well, maybe that'll have to be done at the December meeting if you don't have it. I did send it out. I don't know if Clinton has it.
Clinton, can you help us here?
Let me see if I have it here.
Late in the day.
I don't see. The last one I had from you, Ben, was 3:34 p.m.
Which one was that?
Emergency Services Facility, with talking about if the city, with the lease and the deed from the city will be required.
Isn't that the architect and engineering services contract?
I don't have any resolution attached with it. It was just an email.
I guess that was my error. Mr. Chairman, I apologize for that. I think that'll have to go in the December meeting, apparently. I did, I thought I sent it out.
Thank you. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve our agenda, please.
I'll make that motion, Richard.
And that's good. Please identify yourself when you make the motion. Do I have a second?
Bob will second. Bob Frank.
Thank you, Bob. All those in favor of the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? We have an agenda. Thank you. Now, we have some people on standby who want to make some reports to us, and we're going to take that up first tonight. Is Bill Moyleen correct? Are you there, Bill, to give us an audit update?
Yes, I am here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you.
Okay.
By yourself and tell them what we're talking about, please.
Yep. My name's Bill Moyleen. I'm here from Johnson Block and Company, and I'm here tonight to present the audit financial statement presentation that was previously presented to the Finance Committee on November 3rd. Appreciate you moving me up, so I'll try to keep this brief. Looks like we've got a long agenda tonight, so I'll broad strokes this presentation, and if there are questions on any of the detail along the way, I'll be happy to answer any of those questions at the end. On page 2 there, Clint, we issued an unmodified opinion on your financial statements. The statements were dated September 25th, 2020, and the unmodified opinion is the desired opinion that states we believe the financial statements are free from any material misstatements. The scope of our audit includes all funds and activities of the county. We also, including the Pine Valley Community Village, which a separate audit presentation is provided to the Pine Valley Committee. The separate audit communications document that's been prepared should be reviewed by the supervisors. In addition, with the financial statements, it's an extension of the financial statements designed specifically for county board. We also prepared the DOR Form A financial statement for the Department of Revenue and the separately issued financial statements for the Pine Valley Community Village. Page 3, just a couple of highlights that I'll touch on. County's 2019 fund statements. Total fund balance increased by 2.8 million. The general fund increased by 1,053,000. Most of that government-wide increase of the 2.8 million was related to unspent insurance recovery proceeds that is being spent here in 2020 and probably maybe in 2021 if those projects didn't get going under COVID. The general fund's total fund balance of 4.7 million is approximately 3.5 months of expenses. The tax certificate balances, which is the most significant receivable balance, totaled 687,000 compared to 655,000 the prior year. The countywide sales taxes was pretty similar to the prior year. We were at 1,185,000 for 2019. We had some long-term debt that we issued during 2019 related to the 911 upgrades that were ongoing. And Pine Valley Community Village operating revenues and expenses, we'll go through that in one of these later pages here. Page 4, the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund balance. The county had 17,844,000 of total revenue and 18,034,000 of total expense. Other financing sources and uses were of transfer from other funds, insurance recoveries of 2.5 million, and some proceeds of long-term debt. So other financing sources totaled $3 million. Total fund balance to start the year was 5.5 million, and that increased by 2.8 million to 8.2 million. Page 5 is a budget to actual comparison for the general fund. As just a side note, when we talk about general fund on the financial statements, we're talking about several fund statements that are part of your accounting, Victor, that are all combined and accounted for under general fund. Total budgeted revenues were 2.3 million less than actual. So we had a favorable difference of 2.3 million. Most of that is related to changes in the human services programming and ambulance services on the public charges for services lines. Total expenses budgeted were 14.7 million and actual expense was 16.5 million. That's an unfavorable difference, but it's also related to offsetting public charges for services, which is related to the human services operations during the year. We have transfers from other funds from Pine Valley of 297,000 and $200,000 of proceeds of long-term debt. So fund balance to start the year was 3.9 million for general fund. That increased significantly to 4.7 million. Governmental fund balances on page 6. 10% of total fund balance is non-spendable, which means it's already been spent, or it's not expected to be quickly converted to cash. 19% of total fund balance is restricted by outside sources. Assigned fund balances of 23% are amounts that we've set aside or earmarked for specific use. And then total unassigned fund balance represents 48% of our total fund balance. And there's no restrictions. Those are sort of, you consider those as your net reserves. Governmental funds 2019 revenues. 34% of our revenue comes from intergovernmental revenues, federal and state grants. 38% of total revenue, it comes in the form of taxes. Public charges for services makes up 23%. And the final 5% is miscellaneous and interest income, and licenses, permits, penalties, and forfeitures. And there's some comments on cash flow that I've shared with you before. Shared taxes, that comes primarily in November, and health and human services are paid to you over either a monthly or a quarterly based on CARS contracts. Property taxes increased between 2018 and 2019 by a small margin, 8.7 million in 2018 and 8.8 million in 2019. And that increase that you see is primarily related to the principal and interest payments that are required related to the Pine Valley building expansion. Taxes receivable balances on page 9 increased from 655,000 to 687,000. We expect, this is just the most significant receivable balance that the county has on the books. We would consider these to be collectible. Trend value of equalized values for property over the period presented. Tax valuation has increased by about 13% on page 10 there. But and then moving along, the trend in sales tax revenue on page 11. Richland, like other counties, uses the 0.5% sales tax to limit property tax increases. Between 2018 and 2019, we had a slight decrease, went from 1.19 to 1.18 for total taxes, full sales taxes. And I haven't looked to see if we've collected another month, but I reported to the Finance Committee that for the 2020 collection, we were seeing a little bit of an increase compared to the prior year. So even though we were in the shutdown, sales tax collections have been about 9.6% greater than they were in the prior year. Well, that's good news. On page 12, another visual representation of the 2019 governmental expenses. 42% of our total expense is health and social services related. 23% is public safety. 11% is general government related. Culture and rec makes up 7%. Conservation and development makes up 6%. And debt service and capital outlay make up the final 11%. Changes in net position for the proprietary funds. There are two columns in your financial statements on the proprietary fund statement. The enterprise fund, which is the Pine Valley Community Village, and the internal service fund, which is sort of quasi-governmental. It's reported as an internal service fund. Total operating loss for Pine Valley Community Village was $1,327,000. Those operating losses are offset by general property taxes of $1,356,000 and supplemental payments of $765,000. Other expenses in the non-operating section is related to the debt service expense, interest expense of $574,000. There was a transfer to the governmental funds of $300,000. So net position to start the year was $1,694,000. That decreased slightly by $50,000 to $1,643,000. On the highway department, there was an operating loss from operations of $1,543,000. That's offset by budgeted property taxes that were collected of $1,983,000. So that's an increase of total fund balance of $399,000. So we went from 3.9 million to 4.3 million for the highway department. Changes in long-term obligations on page 14. We had total governmental activities bonds of 4.7 million outstanding to start the year. We had $200,000 of a new debt issuance related to the 911 communications. We made scheduled payments of $520,000. That left $4,407,000 outstanding at the end of the year. And in 2020, we're planning to make or have made $613,000 of total principal payments. Other liabilities that are significant related to compensated absences is what we owe our employees for their time off. We started the year at $633,000. That liability changed by a decrease of $102,000 to $530,000. For the business type activities, We're showing long-term debt of 21 million to start the year. We made payments of 905,000 in principal. So that left about 20,170,000 outstanding at the end of the year. And investment compensated absences, we had 440,000 outstanding to start the year and 440,000 to end the year. And then the total debt limitation is a calculation based on total equalized value. The total debt limit is 60 million, and debt subject to that limit is 24,247,000. So there's about 60% of total debt capacity remaining for the county. So that's pretty quick. But are there any questions or any concerns?
Mr. Moylan,
Yep.
are there any concerns that you have with the overall audit that you'd like to point out?
Well, we kind of went through this in detail during the finance committee meeting, but overall, I would say that the financial position of the county has been maybe a little bit nervesome for some in the finance department, but fund balance increased during 2019. So our fund balance has increased a little bit. Our 2019's audit year was an interesting year. So I forgot to mention this, but so kudos, I would like to just give some kudos to, I mentioned this during the finance committee too, but we audited the county remotely primarily this year, and Victor and the other department heads worked very well with us, and we really appreciate their assistance and cooperation. This year was certainly an interesting audit year. But no, there's no serious concerns from a financial perspective.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have questions from the board at large? Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much, Mr. Moylan.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Seep.
One question, perhaps, for Mr. Moline. I think I heard you say that there was a 13 or 14% increase in, did you say assessed valuation?
Yes, I did say that.
That's a significant change given the past 2 years. I think it's been rather flat. What do you attribute that to?
Well, we're kind of making our way back up. There was a downturn around that we started in 2019 to 2013. If we expanded, we're talking about page 10 in the presentation. So we're seeing this in a lot of counties and municipalities in general. We're just kind of climbing out of that hole. That equalized values are, just more property values are just increasing. It's just a tribute to the economy, apparently.
A second, are our trends rather similar to surrounding counties, or those that you're familiar with?
Yeah, I manage 2 counties. Jackson County, I can say that their equalized values have trended similarly. Where if we expanded this out to like 2000, the year 2000 even, or 2005, you'd see that we were higher before the 2012. 13 is kind of like where we hit the low, and generally speaking, for most government municipalities, we're seeing that similar, climbing pattern of equalized values of property.
It seems rather positive that we remain with about a 60% capacity for taking on debt. Is that similar to other counties?
That would depend on the projects that are ongoing. In Richland County's case, you just had a very large general obligation issuance related to the Pine Valley building. And prior to that, you would have had very little debt related to your total debt limit. So it's a matter of when or if counties have approved projects that have required debt issuances. So that one doesn't really necessarily compare county to county. And I would say that quite possibly Juneau or Richland's debt capacity remaining might be on the low side for other counties that we audit, but that's nothing to, there's no concern that's caused over that. That just generally means that you've decided to bond for a significant improvement, which I would say was probably a good improvement over at Pine Valley.
So you're saying that our remaining capacity is at 60%.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Moline.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Moyleen. Thank you very much. That's a good report, and the fund balance at the end of the year was very encouraging to me. So in particular, 4.7 mil. I skipped something in the agenda. I'm going to declare the minutes from October's meeting to be approved as published unless I hear from anybody else. We skipped over that. I shouldn't have. And that brings us to our Troy Magid from Southwest Regional Planning Commission. Are you online, Troy?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Well, please introduce yourself and tell them what you're going to talk about and take it away.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Troy Magid. I'm the Executive Director of the Southwestern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. And I appreciate time on your agenda tonight. We like to get in front of you once a year and share a little bit about ourselves as a recap, but then I was going to take a few more minutes today to share the big project in Richland County that they're rolling out in partnership with the county and the municipalities and Jason, who I think I saw floating around on this call as well. I wonder if I can share screen here. Do I have that? Do you all see? I see.
Don't think we have you yet, Troy.
See here. I may need some guidance. I'm accustomed to Zoom and not WebEx. I've gone to the share screen. Screen one.
Do the share on the top.
There you go.
And there we go.
It's
happening.
Yep.
All right. Here we are. This is really an opportunity for me to brag about my kids. That's what I'm going to do for the next 15 minutes. No. Yeah, so thanks. Southwest Regional Planning Commission, I'll move through this with respect to your time somewhat fast, though hopefully effectively. Regional planning is 50 years old this year. And we serve Grant and Greene, Iowa, Lafayette, and Richland County. Interesting note, for almost 2/3 of our life, clearly over 50%, our chair has been the chair of Richland County. We've had Janetta for, I think she was our chair for the last 8 or 10 years prior to her stepping down. And then Ann Greenhack was our chair for many, many years as well. Appreciate your contribution to that. Currently, our county commissioners are Melissa Luck and Ray Schmitz and Marty Brewer. Another interesting note, Marty Brewer doesn't exist on the internet. So Marty, we're going to find you and get a photo for our archives here. We have a staff of 7. We actually just brought on another fellow, so we're out of date here, but we've got a pretty lean staff down in Platteville, a good looking crew. Our offices are right downtown Platteville, but we move around the region pretty well. Just for your information, since you do support us, our 2020, excuse me, that should be 2021 budget is around $776,500. 17,000 or so that we get from Richland County every year. It costs you about 96 cents a person. So we're always looking to make sure we return that to you. Oh no, I was right. 2020 776, 2021 budget about 743. So we're looking at also a reduction in our operations, about 4.25%. We've got some strategic staffing that we engage with to meet that. Very lean overhead, but we had about an 11% increase in healthcare premiums, which is no news story to you all too. But I just take a moment to share this to let you know we're always watching about how lean we can be in our service. Another interesting bit, you'll see the giant blue blob here, which is 63% of our budget in 2021 is grant funding. Traditionally, that's only around 50%. But we've been really aggressive in pursuing grants to try to reduce the cost burden to our local communities going into 2021. We get about 11% from the counties we serve, 10.5% somewhere in there. Just an overview of the type of work that we do. If I had to lump it into some categories, we work hard to find funding for our communities for different projects. We do different levels of strategy and data analysis for our 5 counties. And then what I call kind of organizational support and capacity building. Really quickly, what that means, with funding acquisition, and I'll talk a little bit more about this, one of our big partners is the U.S. Economic Development Administration. We brought in around 20 public works grants over the last 40 years. Pretty heavy multi-million-dollar projects. Traditionally, what we need is 3 partners on these kind of projects. We look for a strong community with strong leadership. They need to be the applicant. They find local match. They find business connections. Regional planning is heavily involved in the strategy of these projects. We make sure that the design engineering is procured. We always work on compliance and make sure our communities are compliant with federal regulations. We do a lot of grant scoping, making sure the projects are in meeting with federal guidelines, investment strategies of our federal partners. And then we do a lot of economic impacts and project justification for the project before we write the grant. We recently wrapped up a grant in Dickeyville that we've not heard back on, but the grant was about 260 pages. So there's a fair amount of work in them and a lot of partnership. And then, of course, the last person we need involved are the consulting engineers who do design and estimates. So these EDA grants help develop infrastructure, sewer, water, curb, gutter, mass grading. We've done 2 projects in the county. Currently, Rockwell and this region here south of town is sitting on one of our older public works grants in Richland County. So too, the North Industrial Park, I think was written around 2008, 2009. So 2 public work grants since 95, about $1.4 million in grant funding for total project costs of $3.1 million. So we've been able to develop or help you all develop over 100 acres in Richland Center with some of this funding. There's currently about $4.3 million of fair market value sitting on that in terms of real estate development. And around just shy of $102,000 annually of property taxes. A little low, but you've got some vacant lots north of town. So there's still some room to grow there, which is good. And then we do we write a lot of plans that enable you to get funding, that don't bring in funding directly. So we work with Roxanne and folks at the ADRCs to put together coordinated transit plans. Roxanne and her team are phenomenal, and so whatever we can do to help them, we do. So these plans help enable her and her team to bring in transportation funds for what they call the volunteer ride programs and the buses and so on. In 2020, our 5 counties brought in about $1.8 million of transportation funding to support aging and disability resources. So we're proud of that partnership. The other thing I mentioned is strategy and data development. Just a very brief snapshot. Some of you may be aware we did some housing studies, about 44 housing studies across the last couple of years. I think I shared this work with you last year. About $35,000 of partnership funding from Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, and then some county support and city support. Just a brief note, Midwest housing prices are up about 11%. I heard you, the comment about your equalized value. What we found in Richland County is your property tax base is about 54% residential, and our residential housing prices are just still climbing. We've been climbing since 2014. So if the majority of your tax base is residential home values are going up, your equalized value, of course, is going to climb as well. So what you're seeing is common and is a good thing for your tax base. It provides challenges for your workforce, though. We see housing prices definitely outstripping wages. So there's 2 sides to that conversation. So these housing studies hopefully will be interesting to kind of share some information and strategies. I know we've had a lot of conversations with Jason about these as well. And then the third leg, what I call kind of organizational support and capacity building. Some of you know that Kate Koziel, who's also on the horn here, worked with your communities for the last 2.5 years prior to Jason's position being created. while she was here, we worked closely with her, Mike Brenninger, the county and city partners, to build a lot of tools that we hoped would help whomever took Kate's place get up to speed earlier. And hopefully these have been useful to Jason. Some of the things that we see in the world of economic development in Southwest Wisconsin is a lot of turnover. People leave, they move around. And so one of the things that we hope we can be is a presence of stability and build tools that help new folks get on board. So what do I mean? Well, I mentioned EDA funding, public works funding, and the funding that helped fund a project I'll share about here in a minute. There's different criteria for eligibility. So we kind of maintain a real-time map, interactive map of eligible cities, villages, and counties for federal EDA funding. And then we do the same for CDBG funding. We think that's pretty important to make sure that wherever a project is, if you need to know what funding's out there, we have something here where we can say, okay, here's the funding source, here's the funding source, and help you fund the projects you're looking for. So we do a lot of different interactive mapping and a lot of resources, but I just thought I'd share a snapshot of a couple of them that kind of ongoing tools we help to hope will help folks in the field. The last general Southwest Wisconsin regional planning note I was going to share, I believe you all got this sometime, maybe in the late fall, was our annual report. On the right, you'll see a cover of it. You can find it on our website as well. But if you get on our website, if you didn't get it, you'll find some more background information on it, some details about some recent projects and funding and budget info, of course, for our accountability sake. So that's what I wanted to share briefly with the kind of the bigger picture background of regional planning. What we're really excited about, of course, and it's our 2020 to 2022 flood recovery and economic resiliency project, funded by the U.S. Economic Development Administration. This project has been over a year in the making. After the 2018 flooding, Janetta and I got together. We met with Mayor Kaufman, folks at the city, Mike Brenninger. We started scratching around what kind of work is really needed, because we knew this grant in particular would fund 80% of some strategy and recovery work in Richland County because of the flood impacts. So we worked pretty quickly to put a grant together, to write it. Under Janetta's leadership, and this may ring true if you know her, she went before our board, and our board has a lot of faith in her. And we needed to come up with a 20% match for this project. So we pitched the idea to our board of commissioners, how about regional planning puts our own money on the line? And then when we get the grant, we'll go and we'll reestablish the partnership in the communities and make up for the local match. And our board followed her lead. And then, of course, I said, well, Janetta, now we got to go, what if we get the grant? I got to go find the money. And she said, Troy, that's your problem. You're the director. And so I said, yes, ma'am, because she's Janetta. And we ended up doing it. In fact, I'm coming live to you tonight from Boaz. We had a wonderful meeting, and Boaz is officially on board the project. So I'll share some of the details here. The scope of work of this project, big picture scope of work. We're doing some long-range community planning. The result of this is going to be what we call the comprehensive plans. Some of you may have been involved in these some years back. A second element of the scope of work is county strategic planning, and I've been in touch with Marty and Clint and Melissa about what to incorporate here in a timeline, and we'll touch on that briefly. We're working closely with Jason, with Marty Richards, with Craig at the Chamber to do some workforce attraction and marketing. How do we find out who wants to come here, who come here to visit? How do we get them to stay here? What kind of folks who work here want to live here? We got projects to kind of pull together some of that information as well. We're doing what we call a targeted market analysis, to really look lot by lot at some of our communities to see areas for development potential and to try to identify what businesses might be best suited here. And then the last piece I'll talk on briefly is what we're calling non-structural mitigation, flood mitigation analysis. So the project budget for this is $211,000. 80% or just under $329,000 of funding is coming from the federal government, the EDA. The $82,000 local match is coming from a couple of different sources. Through Jason's hours and that partnership, we're going to be able to recover about $31,000 of in-kind and working closely with Jason. And then we've got about $51,000 of cash match from Richland County. Thank you all very much for your contribution. Richland Center is meeting tonight on this. I may zoom into that after this. We were in Lone Rock last night. They're on board. Boaz tonight, where I'm currently on board. And we're going to reach out to Yuba as well as Cazenovia. Just a side note, Viola was not included in the project. Viola is included in another flood recovery project funded by EDA. And so they're taken care of. We just couldn't double count the federal funding. So they're intentionally omitted from here because they're covered elsewhere. So under the leadership of Matt Honer, Matt's our lead planner and project manager on this project, and he's on the phone with us, I believe, as well. The community planning and comprehensive planning portion of this is really going to result in a roadmap for community decisions and community investment decisions in community vision for the next 10 to 20 years, depending on where we come. And the outcome is going to be something similar to a comprehensive plan. We do those a little differently this time than we did maybe 15 years ago if you were involved in that process. Their implementation focus from day one, very detailed in their process, and we spend a lot of time on the key and really salient issues facing a community. So at the end of the day here, we have a really hard and actionable set of projects. You know, we figure out where you want to go, and then we really identify what the thing is that's going to get you there. We've kind of moved away from big general goals and policies. They're really hard to get your teeth into. Some of the, and then you'll have a really nice looking document as well. Hopefully the document will be something that you can present to businesses, partners, whomever, that shows them that you know where you're going and it looks sharp. It could be a marketing document as well. This is one we wrapped up recently in Arena that we're really proud of. Some of the things that we're going to really delve deep into on the screen here, I've just got a couple of things that I am concerned about and weigh heavy on me. They're unrelated. So on the left side of the screen, you'll see the blue outline of the village of Boaz. And then you'll see this pink blob through the middle, which is the floodplain. And so we need to think really hard about what in the heck does resiliency mean in Boaz? And what does the future look like? And what does growth look like? And what does business look like? And what does housing look like when you can't go anywhere? And we had a really great conversation here. These folks are really, it's going to be a lot of fun to work up here. This is going to be a good place. On the right, I don't know if you see what I see. I'll move this little blurb of a thing. On the right, key demographics, I guess a couple of key demographics of the many that I watch. On the top, you'll see the natural increase projections. Now, natural increase is births minus deaths. And so what you're seeing here is we're about break even from 2020 to 2030. Based on history, the trend line suggests that you're only going to have about 4 more births than deaths across that decade. And come 2030 to 2040, if your history bears out and continues without any intervention, you're going to have about 283 more deaths than births, just based on historical records. Down below, that's a little different. That's migration. Again, how many folks moved into or out of the county. So you see there's a positive trend there from 2000 to 2030. We've had actually more people move in than move out, but it's looking to boomerang back around. So these are pretty alarming, but they're not unusual. A lot of rural America is struggling with this kind of thing. And so I think it's really important to look this in the face and think about how we're going to bring people here, how we're going to retain people, and what this means long-term for us. So I think it's very urgent. I don't think it's alarmist. I think we've got a great community and areas to focus on this and find solutions, but we can't find solutions if we're not realistic. And so these are some things that I really like to focus on to help me think critically about what's happening. So that's what we're going to engage our communities in, is what's the future look like? I mentioned the county strategic planning. You know, we really want to make sure that the whole county board is online with your funding priorities. What's going to drive you to make investment decisions? I was a part of several of your decisions this last budget round, and it gave me heartburn. I don't know how you all made it through it. Phenomenal job of making hard decisions, something probably you don't want to repeat. So how can we work together and think about what our funding priorities over the next 3 to 5 years? We've kicked this around, take this tentatively, but I think it feels pretty good so far from the conversation I had with Marty and Clint and Melissa. Probably somewhere between January and April, we'll be convening the county board for a couple of 2-hour meetings. We're going to look at vision and purpose. We're going to do some SWOT analysis and pest analysis. Pest analysis, we love our acronyms. What it does is it looks at the political, economic, social, and technological impacts to your community. What is coming at you from the outside, and how do you address that? We'll build some goals and strategies, and then the last meeting is really going to be focused on how do you make sure you use this plan. We don't want to put a plan on the shelf. So what do you do with it? When do you implement it? How do you know it's a success? and so on and so forth. So very broad brush of what we think the strategic plan will hopefully do for you. Workforce and marketing attraction. This is a very locally driven effort. We've got Jason, we've got Craig, we've got Marty, and our team supporting them. We're really looking to figure out how to make Richland County a presence. What can we do to bridge the need for bringing workforce here? How do we sell your community and your county? And we're also tying this together with tourism. Marty's got great vision. Marty Richards at Richland Center. We have a lot of tourists. We have a lot of people coming here. If they come here, how do we get them to stay here, right? So again, partnership with Chamber and Tourism. The last piece here, or the second to last piece, is what we're calling a targeted market analysis. And we've done a little bit of this work already. We're going into each of our communities that we're working with, and we're really trying to identify business opportunities. So there's a survey that is being rolled out, if it's not rolled out already, that's going to help inform this. If you tune into WRCO tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., you'll have the pleasure of hearing Kate Koziel and her colleagues share the survey. What we're trying to get at is have folks tell us, based on the community in which they live, what is the thing they really need to see there? What is their biggest concern with businesses, small businesses, downtown? What can't you buy in your community that you want there? If you move to Richland Center, to Lone Rock, to Boaz, why did you move there? And what are the barriers to moving there? We really want to get a sense of the community and the really granular information from people. So we got a massive push to get the survey out. You should be able to see it and hear it coming your way. In fact, we're going to send it out in the tax bill. So if you are a property owner in Richland County, you're going to get a neon pink flyer that tells you where to go to take this survey. The other thing we're doing is mapping physical resources. And we did this last year, and Kate in our office, looking at development potential and buildable lots. And we took, for instance, the city of Richland Center. We grabbed the floodplain, we grabbed steep slopes, we grabbed wetlands, and we said, okay, we cannot build there. Where can we build? And we just had a buildable analysis of certain lots that we think are buildable. And we don't know if they're the best lots or not, but we've already started on some of this analysis to see where future building could happen. So we're going to further this effort with much more boots on the ground analysis as we walk through your communities. Last Friday, Matt and I and our colleague Griffin spent about 4 hours in Lone Rock, walking up and down Main Street, looking at empty housing residential lots, really getting a boots on the ground feel for the opportunities. And then the last bit is flood resiliency. I've had a chance to talk with Darren about this, and I owe a phone call to a couple other your department heads. But we want to look at some non-structural flood mitigation. And then maybe also some old assets. Janetta had spoken to me some time ago about the old NRCS dams that are up in the hills. And the gentleman here in Boaz tonight, Carrie, mentioned the same thing. Do we have assets out there that could help keep water out of the rivers and therefore out of our communities? What are the opportunities to use those old structures? What are the opportunities to put in place practices on the land that help reduce flooding? And then also to help prioritize critical infrastructure. A lot of our communities generally fix something when it breaks. And there's some analysis that we can maybe help out with if it's not already done to identify where the major critical infrastructure is in the community. We can look at freight traffic, we can look at automobile traffic, we can look at age of infrastructure, and maybe start thinking about critical funding for some of those and help prioritizing funding for some of those assets. So we're just kicking the project off. You can tell, obviously, some of these components are more developed than others, but that's kind of the big picture of the project. And then, flood resiliency, as with everything else, some of the framework we're going to be looking at to protect the communities is through the lens of risk avoidance. Can we get out of the way of the disaster, of the flood? Can we eliminate the risk? Can we just buy it down so it's not so bad? And then maybe there's partnerships to share in some of the risk. And I know that emergency management and law enforcement do this very well as they work across departments. So these are some of the lenses that we're looking at as we move forward with the project. And you know what I do? I'll kind of move through this with respect to your time, but I just wanted to end up here with the major points of the scope of work of the project that we'll be rolling out. So I think that's about where we are. There's our website, a background on us and a bit of a background on the project as well.
Thank you, Troy. Supervisors, do you have any questions of Troy?
Yep, Mr. Chair, this is Sean. I had just one quick comment and a question. So I'm really excited. I think this is a great presentation. I'm really excited, especially about that grant. The plan. Really am eager to hear more about that and learn more. My question is related to the CDBG map that you had up. Is that a current map showing the municipalities in the county that are eligible for the CDBG funds? Because I haven't seen a map before, and that map shows a couple townships in the northern part of the county that I hadn't seen before. So just looking to see if that's current or not.
Yep, yeah, that should be current as of 20. Yeah, what are we in here? 2020. And that's a municipal map. It shows towns and villages. There's another path to eligibility for CDBG is census tracts. I just grabbed a couple screenshots, but we could set something up, Sean, if you wanted to kind of share a screen on this. And I know Jason's kind of quickly become the guru of all things CDBG, so we're happy to dial him in as well. And you're actually on our list as we move into Yuba, so I'm glad to hear you like the project.
This is Lee. Would you please include me in that also, because that also includes Henrietta County or Township?
So as we move into each of these municipalities, we have a steering committee, and we're strongly requested. We try to be as we try to respect local control and local decision. We heavily request the county board members who serve, for instance, Lone Rock, be on that steering committee, and Dan McGuire. I got almost my Dan's mixed up. Dan Quinn. Dan McGuire was with us last night in Lone Rock. Gave us good feedback and is part of that. So Lee will definitely be in touch.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Troy. Can anyone hear me?
Yep.
I can hear you, Marty.
Yes.
Thank you, Troy. I finally got unmuted. Thank you very much. And our next presenter, we'll just segue into this, is Jason Glassbender, who is our Economic Development Director with RED, the Richland Economic Development Group. And I guess we're called a group. I can't think of what well, it's Richland Economic Development, RED. And Jason, are you on?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, excellent. I think we've got it set up, so I should be able to share a screen as well. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm here tonight to try to keep all of you up to date with what's happening with the Community Development Block Grant Close program. Again, that's the $1.2 million that's been in the county possession that has moved through the Close program, where we're required to send those funds back. We've been working at that extensively, and you've all heard information about this, but I just want to keep you up to date as best as I can. It's a very complicated process, and we're moving very quickly right now to try to meet the deadline. So you should have been provided with a cover sheet that has a lot of the details. I'm going to just quickly summarize those points. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to read those. The two projects that we're highly focused on right now is a project in Lone Rock, and it's a village park and kind of the village center, the center of the village there. We've been meeting with our consultant. We've met with their economic development committee, their finance committee, their full village board. We've met with the Department of Administration. They are on track to have a meeting tomorrow night in regard to some land acquisition there in the center of their community, so that it could be turned into again a village park. The second project is the Richland Center City Auditorium, owned by the Richland County Performing Arts Council. That involves work bringing the building and restrooms into ADA handicap accessible compliance. Again, we've had meetings with our consultant, with the Department of Administration and with their board. I just got an update from them today where they are engaging their architect at a very high level and receiving price quotes for the project. The exact allocation of the funds, it's been a question that's come up on several different occasions. So we have roughly $1.2 million. How do we decide where that money goes? And I've developed an approach for that I wanted to share with you. While we could say, well, it would seem reasonable to do a 50-50 split, that may cause one of these projects to fail. So what I'm looking for is what I call the ability to phase the projects. So for example, the city auditorium may be able to put in an elevator tower and may not necessarily have enough, we may not have enough money to allow them to do all of the handicap restrooms that they want to do. So what we would do is we would stop that project at the elevator tower and not do the restrooms. And so you have that also, that phase concept in Lone Rock. So if they're looking at purchasing some property, it could be one or two properties, and it could involve, doing a restroom in the park and a gazebo in the park and things like that. So it could involve doing parking lots and different things like that. So what we're looking at is to say, where are the phase options in that project? And then from there, the goal is to determine the split of the money so that both projects are able to be successful. At this time, the auditorium is close to $1 million. The Lone Rock project could approach 600,000. So again, I'm looking at the different phase elements in each project to try to discern how can we get both of these projects underway. The Citizen Participation Planning Committee that you stood up met on November 4th at 6 p.m. for a project overview and meeting, and I'm due to give them an update, and we're moving towards public hearings, which is an element that is required by the CDBG process. So we'll have to hold a public hearing to fully inform as many people as possible about the CDBG closed program and the different projects and all of the different elements that are required in order to receive the grants. The final application will need to be approved by both the city or the county finance and personnel committee and the full county board. Right now, it's looking like we're going to be pushing that right up to the January set of meetings. I did also produce a timeline document for you so that you kind of had an idea of the number of things that we're working on. And actually, this is an abbreviated document because there are a lot of intermittent steps to each one of these things. So I won't take a lot of time reviewing that document for you or with you, but it's there if you would choose, if you decide to take a look at it. And with that, I'll just ask if there are any questions that I could answer.
Any questions for Jay? So if we'll thank our presenters, our three presenters tonight, and we'll move on. Thank you. Good work. Oh.
Thank you, everyone.
You bet. Item number 6 on my agenda, a resolution approved.
Lost you, Marty. Marty, you're on mute.
Yeah, you went dead.
Marty, we cannot hear you.
I'm sorry.
Did we lose him?
There you go.
There he
there
is.
you go.
I'm sorry. It keeps going in and out. I'm not doing a thing. Okay, Mr. Black. can you read the resolution regarding agenda item 6?
Resolution number 141. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for the Health and Human Services Board to enter into a contract with Brotolock Healthcare Systems Incorporated, doing business as Brotolock North, Eau Claire, in the amount of $85,000 to provide community-based residential facility services to a comprehensive community services consumer being served by the Behavioral Health Services Unit. And be it further resolved that the Health and Human Services Board is hereby authorized to amend the above contract by not more than 15%. And be it further resolved that the Director of the Health and Human Services Department, Ms. Tracy Thorson, is hereby authorized to sign the above contract on behalf of Richland County in accordance with this resolution. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. The resolutions offered by the County Board Supervisor members of the Health and Human Services Board, Carrie Severson, Ingrid Glassbrenner, and Peg Call, all signing in favor.
Thank you. You've heard the resolution. What are your wishes? What are your wishes? I need a motion.
Motion to approve, motion to accept that.
And who was that?
Bob. This is Bob Frank.
Bob. Do I have a second?
This is Dave Turk. I'll second.
Thank you. Right, you've heard the resolution. Do you wish to discuss it further?
Yeah, this is Bob Frank. Tracy, can you tell us what this is for and what it's about, please?
Yes, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
All right. This is for placement of a client who is in the CCS program, which is the Medicaid program that fully funds the placement. So this is a group home where the client would be placed.
And this is for one client?
Yes.
And how long of a period of time?
That part we don't really know. It depends on the progress the client makes with the treatment services. I believe this contract is set as if the client were to be there the entire year. So if the client progresses and does not need the placement, he or she would be discharged. We would not owe the whole contract amount. We only pay the amount that we expend.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, we're going to, all those in favor of the resolution indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Anyone? The resolution is adopted. Item number 7 on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, this is Ben. This,
Yes,
Mr.
Ben.
Chairman, this resolution is the same every year, virtually the same.
Thank Mr. Blasek.
Resolution number 142 is being offered by the County Board Supervisor members of the Health and Human Services Board, Carrie Severson, Ingrid Glassbrenner, and Peg Call, all signing in favor.
Thank you. And it's the same thing we do every year, so I'm going to call a vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The resolution is adopted.
Marty, I do need a motion and second.
Oh, we need a motion. I'm sorry.
This is Bob. I'll make a motion.
Bob, and seconded by?
Jerry Severson seconds.
Marty, we lost you again.
Marty, you're on mute again. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know why it keeps doing that. I'm not doing a thing. Okay, let's go to a specialized transportation assistant. Okay, we've done that. Number 8 committee structure change for Health and Human Services. Mr. Vlasic.
This would be resolution number 143. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that paragraphs A, C, and E under the heading Health and Human Services Board in the committee structure resolution are hereby amended by repealing the following crossed out language and adopting the following underlined language. A, 7 members, 4 of whom shall be county board supervisors and 3 of whom to be non-supervisors. At least 1 member shall be an individual who receives or has received human services or shall be a family member of such an individual. Of the 7 members, 1 shall be a physician, if available. 1 shall be a registered nurse, if available. 1 shall be a consumer family member. The physician and the registered nurse shall not be elected officials or county employees. Under number C, scratched out is perform the duties set forth in Chapter 251 Wisconsin statutes and such other duties as may be imposed upon it by the county board. Added is the Health and Human Services Board is the local board of health per Wisconsin statute section 251.03. E, the board may enter into contracts on behalf of Richland County which involve the expenditure of not more than, and it's changed from 30,000 to 50,000, either at one time or within the course of 1 year, without prior county board approval. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. The resolution is offered by the Rules and Resolutions Committee and Ethics Board. John Murphy Lopez, Chad Cosgrove, Carrie Severson, Melissa Luck, and Don Seep all signing in favor.
You've heard the resolution. What is your pleasure?
This is Sean. I'll make the motion.
I can second that. This is Ingrid.
Second by Ingrid. Do we need any discussion?
Mr. Chair, this is Tim Gotchell. What is the reason behind the change, specifically the 30,000 to 50,000 for contracting?
I'll
Mr. Chair.
refer you to, yes. Go ahead.
Thank you. The 30,000 to 50,000 is to clean up the language in the board structure so that it matches the language with the county board rules. The county board rules had changed quite some time ago that the contracts could be up to 50,000 approved by the Health and Human Services Board, and this just had not been changed or updated.
Thank you. Anyone else? Vote then. All those this resolution indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Opposed? The resolution is adopted. Number 9, Highway Department addendums. Mr. Vlasic.
This would be resolution number 144. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that the following amendments to the County Highway Department's addendum to the Handbook of Personnel Policies and Work Rules are hereby approved. 1. S is added to Patrol Superintendent in paragraph A of section F9 entitled Compensatory Time. 2. The following section F11A under the heading Sick Leave is repealed. A. Sick leave may be used in increments of at least 1 hour. 3. The following section F13A under the heading Vacation is repealed. A. Vacation may be used in increments of no less than 1 hour. 4. The following sentence from section J10 entitled Emergency Assignments is repealed. Emergency assignments, the employer recognizes that there are occasions when, due to severe and hazardous weather conditions, safety will best be served by assigning, and scratch out as 2, employees to specific jobs as needed. Determination of these conditions shall be at the discretion of the highway commissioner. Scratched out as 2 persons shall always be assigned to the 4-wheel drive snowplow. A mechanic will be on duty during snow plowing operations when feasible. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. It's being offered by the Finance and Personnel Committee. John Murphy Lopez, Marty Linda Gentis, Melissa Luck, Don Seep, and Dave Turk all signing in favor.
You've heard the resolution. What is your pleasure?
Marty Steve Williamson, I'll move to approve. This is Chad. I'll second.
All right, we have an approval and a second. Discussion?
This is Bob. So are we under item number 1? S is being added to patrol superintendent to make it plural, so patrol superintendents. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other comment, question?
That was Ben.
Oh, go ahead, Ben.
No, that was Ben who answered the gentleman's question.
Thank you, Ben. All those in favor of the resolution indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed. The resolution is adopted. Number 10, 2 invoices for the ambulance committee. Mr. Vlasic.
This would be resolution number 145. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for paying the following 2 invoices from Jewel Associates Engineers Incorporated of Spring Green. A $1,500 for a comparative study of 2 different locations to relocate emergency management services operations and for office space for the emergency management department. B, $4,000 to develop a schematic design for the purpose of developing a request for proposals for architect and engineering services. And be it further resolved that these invoices shall be paid from the Joint Ambulance Committee's Fund Number 51. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. It's being offered by the Finance and Personnel Committee. John Murphy Lopez, Marty Brewer, Linda Gentis, Melissa Luck, Don Seep, and Dave Turk, all signing in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Vlasic. You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure?
This is Linda Gentis. I so move.
Thank you.
Lee
Second.
Van Landijk, second.
Thank you. Okay, this is moving forward with the ambulance garage, and this is some preliminary work being done. They have to know what they need, and they're paying for it. Any other comments or questions?
Yes, the 1,600 mentioned in the text up above doesn't match the 1,500 in item A.
I think that's a typo on my part, supervisors. I think that 5 should be a 6.
We'll treat it as a typo then. Does that satisfy your concern?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to call a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Item number 11, this is increasing the Director of Emergency Management hours. Mr. Vlasic.
This would be resolution number 146. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for increasing the weekly hours of the position of Emergency Management Director, position held by Darren Gudgeon, at a current hourly rate of $26.90 from 35 hours to 40 hours. And be it further resolved that the funds for this increase are in the Emergency Management Department's budget for 2021. And be it further resolved that the job description for this position is hereby amended to coincide with this resolution. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective at the start of the first pay period after January 1st, 2021. The resolution is offered by the Finance and Personnel Committee. John Murphy Lopez, Marty Brewer, Linda Gentis, Melissa Luck, Don Seep, and Dave Turk, all signing in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Vlasic. You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure?
This is Dave. I'll move to adopt.
Big call. I second.
Second.
Okay, we have Dave Turk making the motion, Peg Call seconding. Any questions or comments? Then I'll call a vote. All those in favor of this increase in hours, by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The motion is adopted. The resolution is adopted. Item number 12. This involves a grant for lake monitoring and protection. And I don't know if Kathy Cooper.
I'm here.
Mr. Blasek, please read the resolution.
This will be resolution number 147. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that resolution number 20-128 is hereby amended by adding the following language. 1. The following third whereas paragraph. Whereas the applicant attests to the validity and veracity of the statements and representations contained in the grant application. 2. The following first be it further resolved paragraph. Be it further resolved that the Richland County Land Conservation Department will meet the financial obligations necessary to fully and satisfactorily complete the project and hereby authorizes and empowers the following employees to submit the following documents to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources for the financial assistance that may be available. The task is sign and submit a grant application, that would be by the county conservationist. Enter into a grant agreement with the DNR, that would be by the county conservationist. Submit quarterly and or final reports to the DNR to satisfy the grant agreement as appropriate. Submit reimbursement requests to the DNR no later than the date specified in the grant agreement. That's by the county conservationist. 3. The following third be it further resolved paragraph. Be it further resolved that the applicant will comply with all local, state, and federal rules, regulations, and ordinances relating to the project and the cost share agreement. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. The resolution is offered by the County Board Supervisor members of the Land Conservation Committee, Steve Williamson, Melissa Luck, Sean Murphy Lopez, and Lee Van Landite, all signing in favor.
You've heard the resolution. What is your pleasure?
This is Melissa. I'll make the motion.
You've heard the resolution. What is your pleasure?
This is Sean. I'll make the second.
Mr. Chairman, apparently DNR is requiring this these additional language by way of an amendment to resolution number 2128.
Yes, that is very true. I sent the resolution in that you passed last month. Doesn't change anything about what we'll be doing. It just that they want this language in there too. So, and it's already in the grant.
All right. This is per the DNR's request. Ben, what did you see any problem with it? No problem. Although, then I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the resolution indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted. Thank you. And Kathy, you might as well stay there, or maybe Dick can handle it, or Melissa can handle this. A request to ask the state Senate to take up 13 water bills that the Assembly passed. And apparently the Senate isn't going to do it until we urge them to do so. Mr. Blasek.
This will be resolution number 148. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that the county board hereby urges the state Senate to convene in extraordinary session for the purpose of considering the 13 water bills, Assembly Bills numbers 789 through 801, adopted by the Assembly. And be it further resolved that Governor Tony Evers is urged to sign the water bills after they are adopted by the legislature. And be it further resolved that the county clerk is hereby directed to send a copy of this resolution to all state legislators whose districts include any portion of Richland County. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. The resolution is offered by the County Board Supervisor members of the Land Conservation Committee, Steve Williamson, Melissa Luck, Sean Murphy Lopez, and Lee Van Landite, all signing in favor.
Thank you. What is you've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure, folks?
Lee Van Landite, so moved.
And do I have a second?
Bob will second. Bob Frank will second.
Thank you. We'd like them to get in gear down there in Madison. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you. Now, On my agenda, I have number 14, a resolution talking about roof replacement. Is that what you have, Mr. Blasick?
Actually, it's now number 15, but
Okay,
if you all received the new agenda.
It is the roof replacement though.
Yes.
Well, please read the resolution then. Thank you.
It's resolution number 149. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for a project consisting of replacing the roofs on the following county-owned buildings, and the bid of the lowest bidder, Maley Roofing Company Incorporated of Madison, in the following amounts is hereby accepted, and the contract for this project is awarded to that firm. For the Health and Human Services building, the cost is $212,433. Simon's Natatorium, $130,233. The following buildings at the UW Platteville Richland campus: Miller Memorial Library, $77,433. Melville Hall, $91,833. East Hall, $13,233. Science Hall, $95,400. Plus owner's contingency of $50,000, minus the city's 50% share of the cost of the roof on the Simon's Natatorium, which is rounded, $65,116.50. The total cost is $605,448.50. And be it further resolved that the first page of the county's budget summary regarding 2019 capital borrowing is hereby amended by transferring $40,116.50 from line number 6, Health and Human Services, to line number 5, Simon's Natatorium. And be it further resolved that the cost of this project shall be paid from the Capital Improvement Borrowing Fund, Fund number 75. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. The resolution is offered by the Finance and Personnel Committee. Sean Murphy Lopez, Marty Brewer, Linda Gentis, Melissa Luck, Don Seep, and Dave Turk, all signing in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Blasick. You've heard the resolution. What is your pleasure?
This is Dave. I'll move to approve.
This is Chad. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve with a second. Any questions? These are roofs that haven't been replaced for a long time. We had to do it. Without a roof, the buildings deteriorate. So got to have a roof.
Chair, I have a question. This is Ingrid Glassbrenner.
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering so right underneath the total, where it says that we transferred the 40,000 from line 6, Health and Human Services, to line 9. If someone could just explain what that means, please.
Mr. Chair, this is Administrator Langrick.
Yes.
I can speak to that effect. The mindset with doing the transfer is reflecting what the plan was for the 2.9 million. There was money allocated for Simon Center. The apportionment for the roof, the county's apportionment, I believe, was like about 25,000. So with that added to the resolution, we're saying out of the roof improvements that was separate from the Simon Center, we're going to redistribute some of those funds to appropriate for the Simon Center. And by doing that, then the city's match kind of fills in the 50%. So it's just kind of repurposing it with the planned out appropriations in the original 2.9 apportionments, if that all makes sense.
Thank you, Mr. Langrick. Does that answer the question, Ms. Glassbrenner?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? If not, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of this resolution, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Opposed? The resolution is adopted. Thank you. Item number then 16, I believe, then the large courtroom audiovisual update. Mr. Vlasic, please.
This would be resolution number 150. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County that approval is hereby granted for a project consisting of purchasing and installing audiovisual and teleconferencing improvements in the large courtroom, and the bid of Marco Technologies LLC of Madison in the amount of $84,659.87 is hereby accepted, and the contract for this project is hereby awarded to that firm. And be it further resolved that the $84,659.87 cost of this project shall be paid as follows. One, $72,000 from the Capital Improvement Borrowing Fund, Fund number 75. Two, $12,659.87 from the Short-Term Capital Borrowing Fund. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. The resolution is offered by the Finance and Personnel Committee. Sean Murphy Lopez, Marty Brewer, Linda Gentis, Melissa Luck, Don Seep, and Dave Turk, all signing in favor.
Gary Severson moves for approval. Do I have a second?
Tim Gatchell. Tim Gatchell will second.
Tim Gatchell seconds. Did anyone want to speak to this? Necessary improvements. Have to do it. I guess I'll call for a vote. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, this is AV equipment. It's going to enhance our court ability with the DAR system, which is a digital auto recording, as well as some increased capabilities for telecommunicating to commute remotely. It also is going to coincide with some additional wiring work, some IP phones that we're going to add, as well as a recarpeting. So this is a kind of the centerpiece for an improvement project for the large courtroom.
Mr. Langrick, did you say recarpeting? Is that due to construction for the AV project?
Two parts to it. Yes, and the carpet does need to probably be replaced on its own. I believe that is second hand-me-down carpet that we received from the library when they tore it out. So the carpet as it is should be replaced, but we are going to have to tear up the floor to put in new pathways for wiring. So the carpeting is actually going to be paid out of the $2.9 million capital borrowing from 2019.
I have a question on the 12,600. Where is that coming from, and what is left in that budget item?
Mr. Langbrecht, please.
One second here. The 12.659 is going to come out of our lines from our short-term borrowing fund. I believe we had 30,000 allocated for courtroom improvements. So there'll still be a bit in there to help with some other bits and pieces of the project. But overall allocated from the 2.9 million then is the 72,000, and then we'll have some of our short-term borrowing that is going to also be appropriated to this piece of the project. Does that answer your question?
I was just concerned that any of the other items we might have thought were going to be done with the short term might not be able to be done now.
Let me pull up the amounts appear on the next resolution. There will be for the large courtroom improvement, there's $30,000 of allocation right now. That doesn't, the other parts that were currently allocated for courthouse is $75,000 for courthouse window replacement facility improvements. And then right now earmarked $30,000 for old courthouse roof repair.
Okay.
So I think if I call a vote on this item, then the next item on the agenda is utilization of the short-term borrowing. Things might clear up a little if we just plunge ahead here. Call a vote on the large courtroom TV update. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? All right, the resolution is adopted. And now the next item on the agenda is utilization of short-term borrowing fund. Mr. Vlasic.
This would be resolution number 151. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for the $1,032,132 derived from the recent issuance of taxable general obligation promissory notes to be utilized for the following projects in the following amounts. $75,000 for the courthouse, for the old courthouse window replacement and facility improvements. $24,000 for the courthouse to replace 3 heat exchangers, estimating 3 units. $30,000 for the courthouse for the large courtroom improvement projects. $30,000 for the courthouse for the old courthouse roof repair. $20,000 for management information systems for network infrastructure improvement. $6,000 for Health and Human Services for heating cooling unit replacement. $130,000 for the Sheriff's Department for 2 patrol vehicles, estimate 2 units with configuration. $45,000 for the sheriff. This would be tower radio assessment and specification design. $20,000 for the UW campus. Humidifier replacements in the library, heating, ventilating, and air conditioning controls in the Wallace and Melville halls, and facility improvements. $650,000 for the highway for county trunk road improvements. $2,132 for administration for contingency. The total is $1,032,132. And be further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. It's being offered by the Finance and Personnel Committee. Sean Murphy Lopez, Brewer, Linda Jennis, Melissa Luck, Don Seep, and Dave Turk all signing in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Vlasic. You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure?
This is Sean Murphy Lopez. I'll move to approve.
Thank you. Second?
This is Bob. Second.
All right. Who was
Mr. Chairman, this is Ben. May I speak for a moment?
You may. Thank you.
Yeah, Administrator Langreck and I had a number of communications about giving the Finance and Personnel Committee flexibility to amend these figures. I would just point out to Administrator Langreck the language that was just adopted in Resolution 141, in which is stated that be it further resolved that the Health and Human Services Board is hereby authorized to amend the above contract by not more than 15%. I would just point that out to Administrator Langreck based upon our communications.
Thank you. We'll call on Mr. Langreck to talk about the items enumerated here, please.
Mr. Chair, who was your second, please?
I'm not sure. I
believe it was Melissa.
Melissa Luck, I believe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this of course is in relation to the loans that we have done the authorizing and the awarding resolutions in the previous 2 meetings. Part of these items are augmenting displacement from removal from operational budgets, like the sheriff patrol cars. The highway improvements, we did an allocation of $650,000 is proposed through this funding. Do keep in mind through operations that we took $150,000 out of their operating budget for road improvements. Some of these other tagged on items with the courthouse, some of that again is replacing some of our operational expenses that were removed, like the courthouse heat exchangers. So some of it is kind of transitioning some operational expenses into capital improvements and putting it underneath the debt levy versus the operational levy. With these other projects included in here, they were kind of taken as a point of most urgence. I plan on coming back around with finance and personnel in the first quarter of 2021 to be able to put together a more long-term plan for capital improvements, capital investments, and prioritizing the future years going forward, and kind of keeping that in mind also with our larger debt issuance. As we had heard from our auditors, we do have some capacities left, but keeping our timeline and our windows lined up for years on when we would have debt capacity perhaps to attack the next big addition or big improvement or moving in the county. So some of this is to replace operational expenses that were shifted over, and then some of this is to do some much needed maintenance on these different items.
Mr. Chair, this is Sean Murphy Lopez. Can I just add one comment to the administrators? The only other thing I would add is in regards to Mr. Southwick's comment, we brought forward all of the spending related to any of this borrowed money that was in the previous package or this current package that was just borrowed for a couple of months ago. So the Finance and Personnel Committee has always been forwarding all of these items to the full county board, and we as a committee have not asked or requested for any flexibility. And I can't speak for the whole committee, but I'm assuming that's perhaps because we want the county board to see transparently what's happening and having these items come to the full county board.
Mr. Chair, Tim Gatchell, question.
Go on. Yes, Tim, go ahead.
Mr. Langrek or somebody from the highway committee, could you expound a little? I'm still a little bit squishy on 650,000. The comment was made to replace 150 taken from operations. I think I understand the logic there. The additional 500,000. Could I have a brief overview of that?
I just got a text back from Roger. I don't know if Roger's on, but can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you, Steve. Do you want me to speak to this?
Yeah, go ahead. It's 500,000 for chip sealing for next year, trying to get our county roads. And we will prioritize which ones will be the first ones. The rest is going to be for blacktop, Roger says, but go ahead, Clint.
I was just going to say, part of it too, I believe through our GTA, our returns that we get for the state for road improvements, I believe we had a year in the recent past where we did not do any types of road improvements. So in the formula of getting reimbursements back for the state for not doing those projects, our rate is going to be impacted going forward in the next 3 years. So trying to bolster and put more into our road infrastructure hopefully helps with our GTA returns also from the state. I think if we were using this money for blacktop, I think the number for 650,000 maybe gets us about 2.1 miles to cover. We're trying to keep our hundreds of miles of county trunk on a reasonable life cycle as well. So those are some of the other decision points that went into it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Dan McGuire, may I ask a question?
You may.
The 20,000 allocated for the campus, there was no indication of how it was going to be spent. Could I ask where that 20,000 is going to be spent?
Chair, this is Administrator Langrick again. Right now, it's earmarked for humidifier replacement in the library, heating, ventilating, and air conditioning controls in Wallace and Melville halls. And then we have in there facility improvements. We're hoping it can be used for that, but at the same time, I did have a call from Dr. Federley, who was on the roof of, I believe, Melvin Hall earlier, was it on Monday or late last week, with a heat exchanger in the building that failed. So there's a potential, depending on how and when we get that replaced, that some of that monies might be going towards that. Otherwise, we're hoping that we can utilize it for the earmark projects that are on there as of right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Langrick. Unfortunately, our buildings out at the campus are getting up age, 60 years old now, so needed improvements.
I do have further information, Mr. Chair, if you'd like to hear it.
Dr. Federley, go.
So the heater that failed was a 22-year-old unit, and it serves both as heating and air conditioning. It's a dual system. And when it had failed, we called out Ash Creek immediately to see if there was an emergency repair. and they gave us the do not resuscitate order. So we are currently seeking bids to see if we can't get that replaced. There is an identical unit exactly like it on that building. So we're hoping to salvage all the usable spare parts we can out of the one that's being decommissioned to try to extend the life of that other dual unit system until we can work on getting the funds to replace it as well.
Thank you.
Anything else? If not, I'll call for a vote.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
2000 under administration.
Right now that's held as just kind of a contingent amount to keep it in a line item. It can be reappropriated for these projects as needed. Policy language that I hope accompanies this next month will kind of iterate on that. With these allocations as well, we're looking to have all these monies put into one fund and to completely expend it as we kind of approach the third quarter of each year to make sure it's being appropriated. So funds that may not be expended as we complete out the third quarter of a year could be reappropriated towards highway to zero at that account, free up that fund again for presumably the next year's short-term borrowing. Does that answer your question, Mr. or Supervisor Gottschall?
It does. Additionally, so the intent would be to expend all funds, whether by way of reorganization by the end of the year. The intention is not to use generally what we need for the line items here. The intention is to expend everything.
That is correct. To zero out all these funds by the third quarter of each year, free up that fund then for presumably the next year's short-term borrowing.
Okay, just one more comment then, and then I'll be done. I guess I would caution us as a board. I do understand that we're in bolstering our position financially. I think based on the report that we got earlier this morning, the position has been bolstered. And to do this as an annual strategy for HVAC systems and the like, I think is disingenuous to the public because we're adding levy to them with little say in the matter. So that is my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Gottschall. Anyone else? All right, I'm going to call a vote. Of this resolution indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? The resolution is adopted. Next item I have before me is the Town of Eagle tax deed situation. Mr. Lasik?
This would be resolution number, that's correct, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
It'd be resolution number 152. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for the county to execute and issue a tax deed in favor of Richland County to the following described parcel of real estate in the town of Eagle, which is known as tax parcel number 01010222000, as to which the county owns and holds the following unredeemed tax certificates for the following tax years. The resolution is offered by the Property Building and Grounds Committee. Chad Cosgrove, Steve Carroll, and Steve Williamson all signing in favor.
Thank you. You've heard the resolution. What is your pleasure?
Steve Williamson to approve.
Motions to approve. Do I have a second?
Steve Carroll seconds.
Steve, seconds. Thank you. Any comments? Hearing none. I'll call vote. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is adopted. The state.
This would be resolution number 153. Be it further resolved that the, I'm sorry, I'll start again. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that the county clerk is hereby directed to return the outstanding cash balance in the Community Development Block Grant Revolving Loan Fund in Richland County, which is $1,178,811.83 as of November 2nd, 2020 to the state. And be it further resolved that the county clerk shall return $54,680.32 in addition to the above amount, which is the November 2nd, 2020 balance of the DeYoung loan, which expires on April 1st, 2023, with the result that the DeYoungs will make their monthly loan payments directly to the county. And be it further resolved that the county invests the Community Development Block Grant Revolving Loan Fund money, with the result that the above figures will increase slightly between November 2nd and the date on or before January 31st, 2021, when the county clerk actually returns the money to the state. And the clerk is hereby authorized to return the actual balance as of the date in which he returns the money to the state. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. The resolution is offered by the Finance and Personnel Committee. Marty Brewer, Linda Jennis, Melissa Luck, Don Seep, and Dave Turk signing in favor, and Sean Murphy Lopez signing against.
Thank you. You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure?
Big call. I move to approve.
Okay. Second?
Dave Turk will second.
Oh, sure. Go ahead. We're giving the money back and we're going to get it back again. So don't worry about it. We're going to get it back.
Chairman?
Yes.
Was there something vote? I hear why there was a dissenting vote.
Mr. This is this is Sean Murphy Lopez. It is okay if I respond?
You please.
Okay. The reason that I voted against this this motion and resolution was because it dips into the general fund, and overall, I think as a strategy, I think usually that's a bad idea to be dipping into the general fund. I'm sure there are some exceptions. I would hope that they would be more limited to emergencies. Assuming this does get paid back, yeah, we get a little extra interest, and it's not a bad thing for our finances in 4 years when this gets paid off. But year by year, just trying to increase that general fund as much as possible. That's why I voted against this, because I'm pretty cautious in that way.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I was curious. Could we again hear what the loan, the 54,000 loan, what the risk of default is, or what exactly we are taking on there?
I comment on that. It's a loan. This was a whole blind thing was to develop small business in the county. That is a loan that is homesteader. It's rock solid. They made a payment on time, and it's almost. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Scary again.
Yes.
Can you hear me? This is Scary. Well, essentially, we're taking money out of the general fund for the operation of a business. Temporarily. Return to pay us back. We're giving money out of our general fund to fund this business, right?
No.
We're
buying that loan. We're buying that loan back from the state. This is Dave Turk. The state currently holds the loan through the block grant. We're buying it out of the block grant funds, and we will take over that loan. So the payments will come to us instead of to the state.
Okay. And then if he defaults on that, say that happens, say there's a default on that. And what happens then? What are our legal obligations?
Mr. Chairman, this is Ben. I could comment on that. While I don't have the loan agreement in front of me, in general, we could bring suit against the defaulting debtors. for the
Yeah,
unpaid
thank you.
balance.
The same, I guess, Carrie, the same as any debtor creditor situation. Yes. Yes. We can spend it.
This is Bob. We don't know if that debt is to. Sorry, we don't know if that debt is to the business or to the individuals. Do we? Is it actually to the business if the business has problems versus the owner?
Right.
Mr. Chairman, this is.
Does anyone?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is Ben again. I believe, and perhaps Mr. Vlasic could correct me, that this is a loan to these folks as individuals, not to their business corporation.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Tim Gotchall, one point of clarification. We're being directed to return the revolving loan fund. Why again?
Just speaking, this is Chairman Brewer. I went dead on my end for a while.
Mr. Chair, the question was, we're being directed to give it back. The closed or the CBGG closed program comes down from HUD money through Wisconsin Department of Administration through their, I think, Energy and Housing, I think is the branch of it. The schedule came down where on January 31st that they're closing all those revolving loans and they have to go back to the state. What we heard from Director Jason Glassbrenner tonight, the two projects that he is working on through Lone Rock and through Richland Center at the Theater House, those two projects are kind of based on this money. So this money going back to the state, they're going to grant it back to us for those two projects is the current plan. In giving the full amount back and buying out that loan, the cash on hand that we have plus buying out that loan would come back to the county then in a form of a grant, hopefully for those two projects to utilize. If we opt to pay back the cash in hand, then the state then retains the loan. Payments are still handled and managed through us. We then write a check to the state each month for those amounts, but then that will limit it will be 54,000 and change less that potentially is granted back for those two projects again. But then we also don't assume the liability then for a default that would go to the state.
So we wouldn't assume liability then for default.
Didn't hear
Have we
the
extended
question.
the term? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, we've done this before in the past, and it's been one thing. I just
You're break.
I'm not hearing.
We can't hear.
I'm done. So I'm not going to communicate. It's hard.
This is Lee. I have a
Okay,
lot of dead air. I can't hear anything.
Me too. Have any recommendations here? How to proceed?
My recommendation is a resolution as presented.
Thank you. I'll call a vote on the resolution. All of this resolution, indicate by aye.
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 No.
No.
Aye. Aye.
call roll. Then I'm not how we vote. So, Mr. Vlasek, please conduct a roll.
Don Seep, Richard McKee, Marty Brewer.
Yes,
Can anyone?
aye.
Thank you. Melissa Luck,
Aye.
Tim Gotchel,
No.
Ingrid Glassbrenner, Linda Gentis,
Aye.
Dave Turk,
Aye.
Chad Cosgrove.
Nay.
Was that a no?
Yes.
Bob Frank,
Aye.
Terry Severson,
No.
Steve Williamson,
Aye.
Mark Cooey,
Aye.
Van Nelson,
No.
Ed Call,
Aye.
Steve McGuire, how about Steve Carroll,
Aye.
Murphy Lopez,
No.
Lee Van Landite,
Aye.
Richard McKee, are you still there? Ingrid Glassbrenner, did I get your vote?
No, you didn't, and I say no.
Mr. Wagner? What was that, a no?
Yeah, no.
Mr. Manning's absent, right?
Correct.
So Richard McKee is the only one I haven't heard from. How about Mr. McGuire?
Mr. Clerk,
Yes.
did you get my vote? This is Don Seep.
No.
I think I was muted.
Okay. Are you for or against?
I'm voting aye.
Okay.
I like to vote twice, but I can't.
I have 11 in favor and 7 against, and I have a few we didn't get a hold of. I didn't get a hold of Mr. McGuire or Mr. McKee.
2. But would still carry. Is
Sounds
that
good.
correct?
Yes.
Done. Thank you. Revising resolution. Mr.
This will be resolution number 150. Yes, it'd be 154, resolution number 154. Now therefore be it resolved that the following language in the COVID-19 plan is hereby amended by adopting the following underlined words. 1.01 emergency leave, sick leave. A, employees who are exempt from the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act or Emergency Family and Medical Leave Expansion Act may be granted exempted COVID-19 leave for up to a total of 10 days in a 2-week period at 100% normal compensation while the employee is isolated for having personally tested positive for COVID-19. Number 1, department heads are granted authority to grant this leave, and they will verify a test to their employees' positive test when submitting payroll. 2, departments will utilize applicable pay codes as established through the clerk's office when submitting exempted COVID-19 to the clerk's office. The employees not utilizing Emergency Paid Leave, Sick Leave Act, Emergency Family and Medical Leave Expansion Act, or exempted COVID-19 leave will be required to use their available leave balances for the duration of their illness or to provide care for a family member's illness, including available compensation, sick vacation, and floating holiday. Employees exceeding all paid benefit time available will be allowed to enter into a negative balance on their sick leave accrual bank until they can safely return to work. Once they have returned, all future paid time off, including compensatory sick, vacation, and floating holiday, will be recouped at time earned to offset any remaining negative balance. Employees who begin experiencing symptoms are urged to call a healthcare provider first before proceeding to a healthcare facility so that healthcare providers can prepare for their arrival. Requirements for filing Family and Medical Leave Act paperwork are in effect for leaves not covered by the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act and Emergency Family and Medical Leave Expansion Act. Richland County policy regarding voluntary sick leave donation remains in effect if illness condition meets catastrophic level as defined by the policy. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective retroactively to September 16th, 2020. The resolution is offered by the Finance and Personnel Committee. John Murphy Lopez, Marty Brewer, Linda Gentis, Melissa Luck, Don Seep, and Dave Turk all signing in favor.
You've heard the resolution.
I'll move. Brad.
Is that
Don
Brad,
Seep, second the motion.
was that Brad Wagner?
Yes.
Don Seep will second the motion.
Thank you.
Marty, you're lagging. If you can hear us, we can't hear you coming through.
I'm not hearing the chair.
Does anyone have any questions on this?
Call for the vote.
Muted, Marty.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The resolution is adopted. Appointment of department heads, Mr. Plasek.
I believe that's Clinton's.
Okay, Clinton, and I didn't have him before.
Sure. 1 second here. Pull up a share. And hopefully I can share here.
It wasn't by resolution, was it?
No, it's not on a resolution. It's on a document here that you found in your folder online. Today, recommendation for a motion to confirm proposed county administrator appointees to department head positions as seen below under the statutory authorities regarding the appointment, supervision, and removal of such positions during the transition period. You will see the list of the department heads positions tonight identified as being underneath the umbrella of the county administrator, reflecting our transition to county administrator form of government with the appointee names, current department heads in those positions. Below that, then you'll see the different state statutes that apply to these positions during our current transition. And going into the second page, it kind of states to the effect that for some department head positions in the future, appointees that are filling vacancies post arrival of the administrator will be subject exclusive to chapter 59. So some of these in the future, the statutes that do apply them may change, again, based on them arriving after an administrator is in position. If we have discrepancies or there's question on the statutory language regarding these actions of appointment, supervision, or removal, I plan on working with Corporation Counsel and addressing such and communicating with our sub-bodies of the county board and county board as necessary in addressing these types of issues. So looking then tonight for the confirmation of the department head positions for Corporation Counsel, Health and Human Services Director, Zoning Administrator, Veterans Service Officer, Highway Commissioner, Emergency Medical Services Director, Emergency Services Director, Child Support Administrator, County Conservationist, MIS Director, UW Food Service Supervisor, Fair and Recycling Coordinator, Courthouse Maintenance, Pine Valley Community Village Administrator. Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, this is Ben. Mr. Chairman, what the county administrator just said is consistent with an opinion that I gave to the county administrator on these matters as statutory authority, an opinion I gave some time ago.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions, anyone? Everybody's keeping their job. It's the same thing.
Mr. Chair, this is Sean Murphy Lopez. I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Sean. And do I have a second?
I'll second Lee Fernandez.
All right, I have Liz as a second on that. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
It said appointments, Mr. Chairman.
The appointment, I'm sorry. The appointment schedule signify by saying aye, and it did carry. So the appointment schedule is adopted. I don't suppose Mike Bendel is still online, is he? Mike Bendel, are you there? I don't think we have Mike with us, and he didn't for us to get down to zoning petitions received or recommended for denial. How can we proceed on that, Ben?
Well, if there's no report, there's no action that the chair can take to refer these matters. So it would just be agenda items that are not acted on.
Thank you. All right.
Mr. Chair, I want to.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is Ben again. I want to apologize to the chair and to the county board for agenda item number 24, which while I did prepare a resolution on that, apparently it got lost in cyberspace, and I take responsibility for that.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that brings us to the end of our agenda, does it not? Mr. Langrick?
Correct. Oh, sorry.
Correspondent?
I've got one more report for you, if you can entertain me for 60 seconds, Mr. Chair.
We will. Let's proceed.
Let me share my screen with you. I'll try to share my screen. Let me go through an administrator's report very quickly. One of our centerpieces, obviously, right now is the COVID-19 response. As you saw with our statistics, we're continuing to tick up. My graphic isn't showing here, but we're on pace this last month for roughly 350. If our numbers continue to trend the way they are, the end of November will be approximately 460 positive tests that we're going to collect for our community. Our other concerns through our EOC is monitoring our local healthcare capacity. We're currently approaching full capacity for intensive care units. Our partners with our healthcare systems are, of course, encouraging the community to please abide by our public health safety protocols. Enforcement administration is preparing to approach Health and Human Services Board in December with discussion and possible options regarding enforcement of safety protocols to mitigate community spread of the virus. It's a discussion that we will bring to the board with possible recommendations pending on how things are trending in the next few weeks. We're hoping for the best, but at the same time planning for the worst, and we want to make sure that that we're keeping people safe the best we can. COVID-19 community testing. We're conducting currently testings through emergency management public health on Monday mornings, and then also with National Guard support on Thursdays through early December on Thursdays, hoping that the National Guard testing mission gets extended beyond that. UW Platteville Richland Center has also taken up non-symptomatic testing on Wednesdays. Information can be found at those links there. Policy development in 2020, you've seen a lot of these. 3 new ones added were 2021 budget adopted in October, short-term borrowing intended now for December, complaints and mismanagement, which is one of our strategic goals for the administrator, also be entertained by you folks, tentatively planned for December. strategic planning, report monthly to the finance and personnel on the objectives for our strategic plan. I don't know if my graphic is showing up here, but you'd be able to see it through the folder on our tracking our progress on our strategic plans as approved through the resolution. Current administrative projects and supports, strategic planning through Southwest Regional Planning, as you heard Troy talk about earlier this evening. 2022 budget process. We'll begin those conversations in December, January with finance and personnel. Capital improvements, capital planning, also with finance and personnel. We'll continue movements with the emergency response radio tower assessment. We do have RFPs solicited on our website. Courthouse improvements, working on getting the DAR system, the resolution that you took action on as part of that, and getting their systems up and improved. Roof repair, working with Russ Mones to repair 6 identified leaks in the historic courthouse roof. Working with several departments on a combined grass cutting effort. Working with Don Seep, our county surveyor, and contracted Mr. Wanless in the Casanova demolishing project on a county-owned building there. Land conservation reallocation has been moved out now till next year. Helping where I can with the new ambulance garage project, monitoring the kayak landing project, and then also working with transitioning committee, the administrative transitioning committee, which is scheduled again to meet this Friday, 1 p.m. on WebEx. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Langrick. Thank you. Brings us down to the last item on the agenda, adjournment. Do I have a motion? Do I have
Carrie Severson motion.
Carrie?
Mark Cooley, second.
And seconded
Mr.
by
Chairman, that would be
Mr.
adjourned
Cooley.
to December 8th at 7 p.m.
Adjourned to December 8th at 7 p.m. Yes. Motion, same second. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice job, Marty.
Aaron is Carrie. Can you give me a call? 608-604-59?
Good night.